The cranberry sauce looked like congealed malice in the crystal bowl my mother insisted on using every Thanksgiving. I stared at it while counting heads around our dining room table. 14 family members packed into a space meant for 8, elbows bumping, conversations overlapping like competing radio stations. My wife Mira sat across from me, picking at her turkey with surgical precision. She'd been quiet all morning, which should have been my first warning. Mira Solon was never quiet. As the HR director at Trenwall Industries, she commanded rooms full of executives twice her age. She negotiated contracts worth millions. She could talk a charging bull into sitting down for tea. But today she just sat there, moving food around her plate like she was solving a puzzle. "Cole, pass the gravy," my sister Vera called from the far end of the table. She caught my eye and raised an eyebrow, our childhood signal for something's wrong. Vera had always been the observant one, the sister who noticed when I'd been in a fight at school before our parents did, who could tell when I was lying about homework or girls or where I'd spent Saturday afternoon. I handed over the gravy boat, watching Mira from the corner of my eye. She'd set down her fork and was staring at her hands, folded neatly in her lap. Her wedding ring caught the light from the chandelier, the same chandelier that had hung here for 30 years, through countless family dinners, birthday celebrations, and holiday gatherings. "I have something to say," Mira announced suddenly. The table went quiet except for my nephew Jake, who kept making airplane noises while feeding mashed potatoes to his face. My mother reached over and gently stilled his spoon. Mira looked up, meeting my eyes across the table. Her expression was calm, almost serene, like she'd just finished a particularly satisfying meditation session. "I want an open marriage." The words hung in the air like smoke from a grease fire. My father's wine glass paused halfway to his lips. My mother's hand froze on Jake's shoulder. Vera stopped chewing mid-bite. "I've given this a lot of thought," Mira continued, her voice steady and professional, like she was presenting quarterly earnings to the board. "Marriage shouldn't be about ownership. It should be about love and trust and allowing each other to grow. If you love me, Cole, you'll accept it." I counted the seconds of silence that followed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I stood up, folding my napkin neatly and placing it on my chair. Every eye in the room tracked my movement. I could hear my heart beating in my ears, but my voice came out steady and calm. "Mom, Dad, I'd like you to meet someone." I walked to the front door and opened it. Helena Trenwall stood on our porch, wearing a cream-colored blazer and pearl earrings that probably cost more than my car payment. In her hands, she held a leather folder thick with documents. "Helena," I said, stepping aside so she could enter. "Please, come in." Mira's face went white as fresh snow. The fork she'd been holding clattered against her plate, the sound sharp and final in the silence. Helena walked into our dining room with the confidence of someone who owned the space. She nodded politely to my parents, smiled at Vera, and completely ignored Mira. Then she set the folder on the table between the cranberry sauce and the dinner rolls. "Helena contacted me in September," I said, returning to my seat but remaining standing. "She found some interesting messages on her husband Marcus's phone. We've been comparing notes ever since." My mother reached for her wine glass with shaking fingers. My father leaned forward, his lawyer instincts kicking in as he studied Helena's composed expression. Helena opened the folder with deliberate slowness. Inside were screenshots, printed emails, hotel receipts, and credit card statements. 8 months of documentation, organized chronologically with color-coded tabs. "March 15th, Helena said, her voice carrying the same professional tone Mira had used moments before. "The first hotel receipt, the Marriott downtown, room 1247, charged to Marcus's personal credit card." She pulled out a hotel folio and placed it on the table. "April 3rd, the Hilton Garden Inn. This time the room was paid for with cash. Interesting choice, considering Marcus never carries more than $20 in cash. Mira hadn't moved. She sat frozen in her chair, staring at the documents like they might spontaneously combust if she looked hard enough. April 22nd, I said, taking over the presentation. Mira told me she was having dinner with her college roommate, but Vera saw her at Romano's across town, sharing a very intimate meal with Marcus Trenwall. All eyes turned to Vera, who had the grace to look uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say, she admitted. I thought maybe it was work-related, but then I saw them holding hands and I'm sorry, Cole. I should have told you sooner. You told me when it mattered, I said. Last week, when I asked if you'd ever seen anything suspicious. Helena pulled out another document. June 7th through 9th, a weekend conference in Miami. Marcus told me he was attending a construction industry seminar. Mira, what did you tell Cole? Mira's lips moved, but no sound came out. She told me she was visiting her sister in Tampa, I answered for her. Except her sister was here in Portland that weekend, helping plan our anniversary party. My mother made a small sound, somewhere between a gasp and a whimper. My father's expression had shifted from confusion to the cold, calculating look he wore when preparing to destroy an opponent in court. August 12th, Helena continued, pulling out a printed screenshot. A text message from Marcus to Mira. I love you. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Mira's response was equally illuminating. She placed the screenshot on the table, angled so everyone could see it. Mira's reply was short but devastating. Soon, baby. Cole suspects nothing. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Then my nephew Jake, oblivious to the adult drama unfolding around him, asked loudly, Why is everyone so quiet? Did someone say a bad word? Something like that, Vera murmured, pulling him closer. I looked around the table at my family, really looked at them. My parents, married 43 years, who still held hands during movies. My sister, who'd driven 3 hours with her kids to be here. My aunts and uncles and cousins, all of whom had rearranged their lives to gather for this tradition we'd maintained for decades. There's more, I said. Helena, would you like to share the financial documentation? Helena nodded and pulled out a stack of bank statements. Over the past 6 months, Mira has withdrawn $34,000 in cash from your joint accounts, Cole. Small amounts, never more than the daily ATM limit, but consistent. Almost like she was planning something. My father's eyebrows shot up. 34,000? The money funded hotels, gifts, and a very expensive watch that Marcus is wearing right now, I said. Helena, would you mind showing everyone the receipt for that watch? Helena produced a jewelry store receipt dated 3 weeks ago. A Rolex Submariner, $18,000, engraved with the message, Forever yours, M. I turned to look at Mira directly for the first time since Helena had arrived. You wanted an open marriage, Mira. You said if I loved you, I'd accept it. But here's the thing. You've been living an open marriage for 8 months. You just forgot to mention it to me. Mira finally found her voice. Cole, I can explain. Oh, I think you've explained enough, I interrupted. Remember our prenup? The one you laughed about at our rehearsal dinner? The one with the infidelity clause that my father insisted on including? My father smiled grimly. Forensic accounting provision, full asset protection in cases of adultery. I told you it was important, son. You were right, Dad, as always. I pulled out my phone and opened a group text that included everyone at the table. You wanted openness, Mira. Complete transparency. So here it is. I hit send. 14 phones buzzed simultaneously as they received a message containing photos of every document Helena had brought, along with a detailed timeline of Mira's affair. Now everyone knows exactly who you are, I said. Completely open, just like you wanted. Mira's mother, sitting next to her, slowly scooted her chair away. The movement was small but unmistakable, a public rejection that cut deeper than any words could have. Helena closed the folder and picked up her purse. "I filed for divorce this morning," she announced. "Marcus will be served on Monday." "I filed on Friday," I added. "My lawyer will be in touch, Mira." Helena reached into her purse and pulled out a house key, setting it on top of the folder. "This is to the apartment Marcus thought I didn't know about. The one on Elm Street where he's been taking you, Mira. I thought you might want to know that I had the locks changed this morning." With that, Helena turned and walked toward the door. She paused at the threshold and looked back at our family gathering, at the turkey growing cold, at the untouched desserts waiting in the kitchen, at the fragments of what had been a perfect Thanksgiving dinner. "Thank you for your hospitality," she said to my parents. "I'm sorry for the disruption." After she left, the silence returned. Mira sat alone at the table, surrounded by family members who couldn't quite meet her eyes. The evidence of her betrayal lay scattered between the holiday dishes like accusations made manifest. I remained standing, my hands steady, my voice calm. Dinner's over. The next morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. I'd spent the night in the guest bedroom, listening to Mira pace the hallway outside my door until nearly 3 a.m. She'd knocked twice, calling my name softly, but I'd pretended to sleep. There would be time for conversations later, when I was ready, when I had control. My phone had been buzzing all night with texts from family members. Vera sent a simple, "Call me when you're ready." My mother wrote a longer message about being proud of how I'd handled things and offering the guest room at their house. My father, ever the lawyer, sent a brief text. "Good work. Don't talk to her without representation." I was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee and scrolling through the messages, when Mira finally appeared. She looked terrible, her hair unwashed, her eyes red and puffy, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. She moved carefully, like someone recovering from a serious injury. "We need to talk," she said, her voice hoarse. "No," I replied without looking up from my phone. "We really don't." "Cole, please, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." I set down my phone and met her eyes. "You've been having an affair for 8 months. You spent $34,000 of our money on another man. You lied to my face, to our families, to everyone who cared about us. What exactly don't I understand?" She pulled out the chair across from me, the same spot where she'd sat at countless breakfast conversations over the past 5 years. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way." "How was it supposed to happen, Mira? Were you planning to ask for an open marriage before or after you'd already opened it?" Her face crumpled. "I was going to tell you. I was trying to find the right way." "The right way was 8 months ago, before you slept with your boss. The right way was before you spent our savings on hotel rooms and jewelry for another man. The right way was before you made me look like a fool in front of everyone I care about." My phone rang. Helena's name appeared on the screen, and I answered immediately. "Good morning, Helena." "Good morning, Cole. I hope I'm not calling too early. I wanted to let you know that Marcus came home last night. It was illuminating." I put the call on speaker. Mira's eyes widened, but she didn't move. "He tried to deny everything at first," Helena continued, "even with the evidence laid out in front of him. Then he got angry and started blaming me for snooping through his phone. Finally, he broke down and confessed. Apparently, he's been in love with Mira for over a year." Mira made a small choking sound. "He packed a bag and left around midnight," Helena said. "I thought you should know in case he tries to contact either of you." "Thank you for the heads up," I said. "How are you holding up?" "Better than expected, honestly. There's something liberating about finally knowing the truth. I've been living with suspicions for months, questioning my own instincts. Now I can move forward." After I hung up, Mira stared at me across the table. "You planned this, the whole thing. You and Helena planned this together." "Yes, we did." "How long have you known?" I suspected something was wrong in July. You were working late more often, taking calls in the other room, being secretive about your phone. But I didn't know for certain until Vera told me what she'd seen. Mira's hands shook as she reached for my coffee mug, then thought better of it. So you've known for a week? I've had proof for a week. Helena and I have been sharing information for 2 months. 2 months? Her voice rose. You've been investigating me for 2 months? I've been protecting myself for 2 months. There's a difference. She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked our backyard. The garden she'd planted last spring was brown and dormant now, waiting for winter to finish what autumn had started. I never meant for it to go this far, she said to the window. It started as just attraction. Marcus understood me in ways you never did. He appreciated my ambition, my drive. He didn't make me feel like I was too much. I laughed, surprising both of us. Too much? Mira, I supported your career from day one. I moved across the country so you could take the job at Trenwall. I turned down promotions so you could travel for work. I never once asked you to be less than you are. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you're trying to blame me for your affair. She turned from the window, tears streaming down her face. I'm not blaming you. I'm trying to explain. Don't. I stood up, suddenly tired of the conversation. Don't try to explain why you betrayed me. Don't try to make this my fault. And definitely don't try to make me feel sorry for you. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Can you come in this morning? We need to discuss next steps. I have to go, I said, grabbing my keys from the counter. Where? To see my lawyer. To discuss how we're going to divide everything we built together. To figure out how to untangle 5 years of marriage from 8 months of lies. Mira followed me to the front door. Cole, wait. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can... I turned back to her, and whatever she saw in my expression made her step backward. Mira, you stood in front of my entire family yesterday and asked for an open marriage. You didn't ask for forgiveness. You didn't confess your affair. You didn't even seem sorry. You asked me to accept sharing you with another man, like it was a reasonable request, like I was being unreasonable for wanting a faithful wife. I opened the door, letting the cold November air rush into our warm house. You wanted an open marriage, I said. Congratulations. You're about to be very open and very single. The law office of Peterson, Wright and Associates occupied the top 3 floors of a downtown building that had been renovated to within an inch of its life. My father had recommended them, specifically Janet Peterson, who specialized in divorce cases involving infidelity and complex asset division. Janet was exactly what I'd expected from my father's description: sharp, efficient, and completely unsympathetic to sob stories. She was probably 50, with silver hair pulled back in a severe bun and glasses that she used like a weapon, peering over them when she wanted to make a point. Your prenup is ironclad, she said, spreading the documents across her conference table. Your father wrote it himself, and he's very good at his job. The infidelity clause is particularly comprehensive. What does that mean in practical terms? It means Mira gets nothing. No alimony, no claim to your assets, no share of the house. She'll leave the marriage with whatever she brought into it, minus what she spent on her affair. I felt a grim satisfaction at that. What about her car? It's in your name, purchased during the marriage with marital funds. She has no claim to it. Her credit cards? Joint accounts that you can close immediately. I recommend doing so today, before she has a chance to run up debt out of spite or desperation. Janet pulled out another folder. Now, let's talk about the evidence Helena provided. It's comprehensive, well-documented, and completely admissible. Your wife's lawyer will likely advise her to settle quickly rather than drag this through court. Will she fight it? She might try. People often make poor decisions when they're cornered, but she has no legal ground to stand on, and fighting will only cost her money she doesn't have. I left the law office feeling lighter than I had in months. The prenup my father had insisted on, the one Mira had laughed about, calling it unnecessary and unromantic, was about to save me from financial ruin. My phone rang as I was walking to my car. Vera's name appeared on the screen. "How are you doing?" she asked without preamble. "Better than I expected. The prenup covers everything." "Good. Listen, I need to tell you something. Mira called me this morning." I stopped walking. "What did she say?" "She wanted me to talk to you, to convince you to give her another chance. She's spinning this story about how the affair meant nothing, how Marcus manipulated her, how she was confused and made a mistake." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that I saw them together in April, and they didn't look confused. They looked happy." She hung up on me. I reached my car and leaned against it, suddenly exhausted. I keep thinking about all the times she lied to my face, all the evenings she came home late, claiming she was working, all the business trips that probably weren't business trips. "Stop torturing yourself with that," Vera said firmly. "You can't change what happened. You can only control what happens next." "You're right. I know you're right." "Are you coming to Mom and Dad's for dinner tonight? They're worried about you." I considered it. The thought of my mother's pot roast and my father's terrible jokes was appealing, but I wasn't ready for more family sympathy yet. "Not tonight. I need to take care of some things, close bank accounts, change passwords, that sort of thing." "Okay, but Cole, don't isolate yourself. This isn't your shame to carry." After I hung up, I sat in my car for a long time, watching people walk past on the sidewalk. Normal people living normal lives, probably not dealing with cheating spouses or divorce lawyers, or the complete implosion of everything they'd thought was true. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it without responding. Marcus Trenwall had nothing to say that I wanted to hear. Instead, I drove to the bank. The bank manager, a soft-spoken woman named Patricia, handled the account closures with professional discretion. She didn't ask questions when I requested that Mira's access be immediately revoked from all joint accounts. She simply processed the paperwork and handed me new debit cards with my name only. "The credit cards will be canceled within the hour," Patricia said. "Any outstanding charges will need to be paid from the checking account, but no new charges can be made." I thanked her and drove home, wondering what I'd find when I got there. Would Mira be gone? Would she be waiting with more excuses? Would Marcus be there, ready for some kind of confrontation? The house was empty. Mira's car was gone from the driveway, and a note on the kitchen counter explained where she'd gone. "Staying at my sister's for a few days. We need space to think. Please don't make any major decisions until we can talk properly. I love you. M." I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Then I changed the locks. The locksmith, a cheerful man named Tony who'd clearly done this job many times before, worked efficiently while making small talk about the weather and the upcoming holidays. He didn't comment on the fact that I was changing locks on a Tuesday afternoon, or that I specifically requested all new keys. "You want me to install a deadbolt too?" he asked. "Extra security never hurts." "Yes, please." While Tony worked, I walked through the house, seeing it with new eyes. The living room where Mira and I had spent countless evenings watching movies. The kitchen where we'd cooked dinner together, arguing about seasoning and timing. The bedroom where we'd made plans for the future, talking about children and vacations and growing old together. How much of it had been real? When she'd said she loved me, had she meant it? When she'd talked about our future, had she been planning to include Marcus in it? My phone rang. Mira's name appeared on the screen, and I answered. "Cole, my credit card was declined at the grocery store. What's going on?" "I closed the joint accounts." Silence. Then, "You can't do that. I need access to money." "You had access to money." You used $34,000 of it on your boyfriend. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed. Mira, you've been lying to me for 8 months. You spent our savings on another man. You asked for an open marriage in front of my entire family instead of having the courage to ask for a divorce. Nothing about this situation is fair. I need money for basic expenses, food, gas, my phone bill. Get it from Marcus, or get a job. You're a grown woman with a college degree and years of experience. Figure it out. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. The house felt different with the new locks installed. Safer, somehow. Like I'd reclaimed something that had been taken from me without permission. I ordered pizza for dinner and ate it while sitting on the couch, scrolling through social media. The family group chat was active with messages of support from aunts, uncles, and cousins who'd been at yesterday's dinner. Everyone was being carefully supportive without directly criticizing Mira, which I appreciated. My cousin David sent a private message. If you need anything, let me know. Also, my buddy works at Trenwall Industries in accounting. Word is getting around about Marcus and Mira. Apparently, there are policies about workplace relationships that they violated. That was interesting. I made a mental note to mention it to my lawyer. Around 9 p.m., I heard a car in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw Marcus Trenwall getting out of a black BMW. He walked to the front door and knocked. I didn't answer. He knocked again, harder this time. Cole, I know you're in there. We need to talk about this like adults. I turned up the volume on the TV. Marcus tried the door handle, found it locked, and knocked again. Come on, man, this is ridiculous. Let me explain what really happened. I muted the TV and called out, Go away, Marcus. You're trespassing. I'm not leaving until we talk. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I'd like to report someone trespassing on my property. He's been asked to leave and refuses. Marcus must have heard me through the door, because the knocking stopped. A moment later, I heard his car start and drive away. The police arrived 15 minutes later, 2 officers who took a brief report and advised me to call if Marcus returned. They were professional and polite, treating the situation as routine domestic drama rather than high crime. After they left, I sat in my quiet house and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. For the first time since July, when I'd started suspecting something was wrong, I wasn't wondering where Mira was or what she was doing or who she was with. I knew exactly where she was and what she was doing. She was at her sister's house, probably crying and telling a carefully edited version of events that painted her as the victim. Marcus was probably at his secret apartment, trying to figure out how to salvage his career and his reputation. And I was home, alone, finally free from the constant low-level anxiety that had been my companion for months. My phone buzzed with a text from Helena. How are you holding up? I typed back, better than expected. Changed the locks today. Marcus stopped by but left when I threatened to call the police. He's been calling me all day. I'm not answering. Good. Let him sit with the consequences for a while. I wanted to thank you again for yesterday. I know it was hard, doing it in front of your family like that. I thought about that. Had it been hard? In some ways, yes. But in other ways, it had been exactly what the situation required. Mira had chosen to make her announcement public, in front of people who loved and trusted her. She'd wanted an audience for her grand gesture of liberation. She'd gotten one, just not the reaction she'd expected. It needed to be public, I typed. She made it public when she asked for an open marriage at Thanksgiving dinner. I just made sure everyone had all the facts. Still, it took courage. A lot of men would have handled this privately, let her save face. I considered that. Maybe she was right. Maybe a kinder man would have taken Mira aside, shown her the evidence quietly, given her a chance to confess and apologize before exposing her to public judgment. But kindness was a luxury I could no longer afford. Mira had made her choices deliberately, over months of deception. She'd looked me in the eye and lied, repeatedly, while spending our money on another man. She'd planned to continue the affair indefinitely, only asking for permission after she'd already taken what she wanted. No, I thought. She'd forfeited any claim to kindness when she'd decided to betray our marriage while pretending to honor it. Some people don't deserve to save face, I replied. Helena sent back a simple thumbs-up emoji, and I smiled for the first time in days. Tuesday morning brought unexpected news. My cousin David called while I was drinking coffee and reading the paper, a luxury I hadn't enjoyed in months, since Mira's morning routine had always involved a complex choreography of bathroom time, closet space, and kitchen access. "You're not going to believe this," David said without preamble. "Marcus Trenwall got fired yesterday." I nearly choked on my coffee. "What?" "My buddy Jake works in HR at Trenwall Industries. Apparently, they have a strict policy about relationships between supervisors and direct reports. Marcus was Mira's boss, right?" "Right." "Well, someone sent the company's ethics hotline a detailed report about their affair, complete with documentation showing it had been going on for months. The board held an emergency meeting yesterday afternoon and terminated Marcus immediately." I set down my coffee cup, processing this information. "Someone sent them a report?" "Anonymous tip, according to Jake. But whoever it was had access to hotel receipts, credit card statements, the whole 9 yards. Sound familiar?" It did sound familiar. "What about Mira?" "She's suspended pending investigation. Since she wasn't the supervisor, her situation is more complicated. But Jake thinks they'll probably fire her too, once they finish reviewing everything." After I hung up with David, I sat in my quiet kitchen and marveled at how quickly things were unraveling for Mira and Marcus. Yesterday, they'd probably thought they could weather this storm, find a way to continue their relationship despite the divorce proceedings. Today, they were both unemployed. My phone rang again. This time it was Janet Peterson, my lawyer. "I have news," she said. "Mira's attorney called this morning. She wants to negotiate." That was fast. Desperate people make quick decisions. Apparently, she's been suspended from work, and her sister is pressuring her to resolve this quickly. The attorney is asking if you'd consider a settlement conference. "What kind of settlement?" "The prenup is clear." That's what I told him. But he's claiming emotional distress, arguing that you publicly humiliated her in a way that damaged her reputation and career prospects. I laughed out loud. She damaged her own reputation when she had an affair with her boss. She damaged her own career when she violated company policy. I just made sure people knew the truth. That's exactly what I told him. But Cole, I need to ask, did you or Helena contact Trenwall Industries about their relationship? I considered lying, but Janet was my lawyer. "I don't know. Helena might have. We didn't discuss it specifically, but she had access to all the same evidence I did." "Understood. It doesn't matter legally. Employers have a right to know when their policies are being violated. But it explains why Mira's attorney is scrambling." "What do you recommend?" "We proceed exactly as planned. The prenup is enforceable. The evidence is overwhelming, and she has no legal basis for claiming additional compensation. If she wants to take this to court, she'll lose and pay legal fees on top of it." After I hung up with Janet, I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. It was a beautiful November day, crisp and clear, with the kind of blue sky that made everything look sharp and clean. I'd made it about 3 blocks when my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Cole, it's Marcus. Please don't hang up." I stopped walking. "You have 30 seconds. "This is insane. You've ruined both our careers over a personal matter that should have been handled privately." "You ruined your own career when you started sleeping with your subordinate. I just made sure your employer found out about it." "Mira and I are in love. What we have is real. You can't destroy that by being vindictive." I looked up at the blue sky, watching a hawk circle overhead. "Marcus, you're 41 years old. You have a wife and kids. You threw away your marriage and your career for an affair with an employee. And now you're calling me vindictive? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted my wife, so you took her. You wanted to keep your job and your reputation, so you tried to hide it. You wanted to have everything without paying any price. Well, congratulations. Now you know what consequences feel like. I hung up and blocked the number. The walk home took me past Romano's, the restaurant where Vera had seen Mira and Marcus together in April. I paused outside, looking through the windows at couples sharing lunch, talking and laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. Had Mira been happy here with Marcus? Had she felt guilty, sitting in a public restaurant with another man while wearing the wedding ring I'd given her? Or had she felt liberated, finally free to be with the person she really wanted? I realized it didn't matter. Whatever she'd felt, whatever had motivated her choices, it was no longer my problem. She'd made her decision when she'd started the affair. Everything that followed was just the natural consequence of that choice. My phone buzzed with a text from Vera. "Mom wants to know if you're coming to dinner tonight. She's making your favorite." I smiled and typed back, "Tell her yes, I'll bring wine." For the first time in months, I was actually looking forward to a family dinner. That evening, my parents' house felt like a sanctuary. My mother had indeed made my favorite meal, pot roast with vegetables and homemade bread, and the familiar smells of my childhood filled the kitchen. "You look better," my mother said, studying my face while she set the table. "More rested. I feel better. Amazing what a good night's sleep will do." My father emerged from his study with a bottle of red wine and a satisfied expression. "I heard about Marcus Trenwall losing his job. Couldn't have happened to a more deserving person." "Dad," my mother warned, "let's try to keep this civil." "Civil?" My father uncorked the wine with more force than necessary. The man had an affair with his employee, violated company policy, and then had the audacity to call my son vindictive. Civil went out the window months ago. Vera arrived with her kids just as we were sitting down to eat. Jake, my 5-year-old nephew, immediately demanded to know why Uncle Cole looked sad. "I'm not sad, buddy," I told him. "I'm just thinking about some grown-up stuff." "Are you getting divorced like Tommy's parents?" The adults exchanged glances over his head. "Yes," I said. "But that doesn't mean anyone did anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups just can't live together anymore." Jake considered this with the seriousness of a Supreme Court justice. "Will you still come to Christmas?" "Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it." During dinner, my parents carefully avoided discussing Mira or the divorce, focusing instead on work, the weather, and plans for Christmas. But after the kids went to watch a movie, the conversation turned serious. "Have you thought about what you want to do with the house?" my mother asked. "Keep it, probably. It's in my name, and I can afford the payments. Besides, I like the house. I shouldn't have to give up my home because of her choices." My father nodded approvingly. "Good. Don't let her take anything else from you." "She can't," I said. "The prenup covers everything. She'll leave with exactly what she brought into the marriage." "What about her belongings? Clothes? Personal items?" "I hadn't thought about that. I suppose she'll want to collect them at some point. I'll have to coordinate with the lawyers." Vera leaned forward. "Cole, I need to tell you something. Mira called me again today." "What did she say?" "She's desperate. She's lost her job, she has no money, and Marcus isn't returning her calls. She wanted me to convince you to let her come home, at least temporarily." I felt a flicker of something that might have been sympathy, but it passed quickly. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that she made her choices, and now she has to live with them." She started crying and hung up. My mother looked troubled. "I know she hurt you terribly, Cole, but she's still family. Maybe we should—" "No," my father interrupted firmly. "She stopped being family when she betrayed Cole and humiliated our entire family at Thanksgiving dinner. She's an adult who made adult choices. Let her face adult consequences." I appreciated my father's support, but I could see the conflict in my mother's face. She'd always been the peacemaker, the one who tried to smooth over family conflicts and find compromise solutions. "Mom, I know this is hard for you," I said gently. "You've always seen the best in people. But Mira didn't just hurt me. She lied to all of you for months. She sat at this table, ate your food, accepted your love and support, all while living a completely different life behind our backs. My mother nodded slowly. You're right. It's just 5 years is a long time. She was part of our family. She was, but that was her choice to throw away, not mine. Later that evening, as I was getting ready to leave, my father pulled me aside. I'm proud of how you've handled this, he said. A lot of men would have fallen apart or done something stupid. You've been smart, strategic, and dignified. I learned from the best, I said. That prenup saved my life. He smiled grimly. I've seen too many good men destroyed by bad marriages. I wasn't going to let that happen to my son. Driving home through the quiet streets, I reflected on how much my life had changed in just 4 days. On Thursday, I'd been a married man with a successful wife and what I'd thought was a solid future. Tonight, I was single, living alone, and facing an uncertain but suddenly hopeful tomorrow. The house felt different when I walked in. Not empty, but peaceful. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my favorite chair, the one Mira had always complained was too big for the living room. Tomorrow, I'd start thinking about what came next. Tonight, I was content to sit in my own space, in my own time, without wondering where anyone else was or what they were doing. For the first time in months, I was exactly where I wanted to be. Wednesday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was working in my home office, catching up on architectural drawings for a client, when the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see a woman I didn't recognize, middle-aged, professionally dressed, holding a briefcase. I opened the door to find Mira's lawyer, a stern-faced woman named Patricia Wells, who introduced herself with the efficiency of someone who billed by the minute. Mr. Solon, I represent your wife in the divorce proceedings. I was hoping we could have a brief conversation. My lawyer advised me not to speak with you directly. I understand, but the situation has become complicated. Mira is in a very difficult position, and I thought perhaps we could find a mutually beneficial solution. I considered closing the door, but curiosity got the better of me. You have 5 minutes. Patricia Wells stepped into my foyer, her eyes quickly cataloging the house's contents. This is a lovely home. You and Mira built something beautiful here. Mira helped destroy something beautiful here. What do you want, Ms. Wells? She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. My client is prepared to waive any claim to alimony or asset division in exchange for a modest settlement that would allow her to relocate and start over. The prenup already waives her claim to alimony and assets. She's not offering me anything I don't already have. She's offering to make this process quick and quiet. No court appearances, no public proceedings, no additional embarrassment for either party. I laughed. Embarrassment? Ms. Wells, your client announced her desire for an open marriage at Thanksgiving dinner in front of 14 family members. She's been having an affair with her boss for 8 months. She spent $34,000 of our money on another man. What exactly could be more embarrassing than what she's already done? Patricia Wells shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Solon, my client made mistakes. She's acknowledged that. But the way you've chosen to handle this situation, the public humiliation, the coordinated attack on her career, goes beyond reasonable response to marital infidelity. Coordinated attack? I stepped closer, and she instinctively stepped back. Your client violated her company's ethics policies. Her employer had a right to know about it. If she didn't want to face professional consequences for her personal choices, she shouldn't have made those choices. You and Helena Trenwall deliberately destroyed 2 careers. Helena and I exposed the truth. Marcus and Mira destroyed their own careers when they decided to have an affair between a supervisor and subordinate. We just made sure the right people found out about it. Patricia Wells closed her folder. My client is prepared to take this to court if necessary. Then your client is going to lose and pay legal fees on top of it. The prenup is ironclad, the evidence is overwhelming, and she has no legal standing. But please encourage her to fight it. I'd love to see all of this aired in public court proceedings." After she left, I called Janet Peterson to report the conversation. "They're getting desperate," Janet said, "which means they know they have no case. I'll contact Ms. Wells and remind her that any further direct contact with you should go through my office." "How long is this likely to take?" "With the prenup and evidence we have? 6 to 8 weeks if she's smart and settles quickly. 6 to 8 months if she's stupid and fights it." I hoped she'd be smart, but I wasn't counting on it. That afternoon, I decided to run errands I'd been putting off. Grocery shopping, dry cleaning, the mundane tasks of single life that I was still getting used to. I was leaving the bank when I spotted a familiar figure across the street. Marcus Trenwall sat on a bench outside the coffee shop, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 days. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled, and he was staring at his phone with the desperate intensity of someone waiting for news that wasn't coming. I crossed the street. "Marcus." He looked up, startled. "Cole, I was just what? Calling my wife? Texting her? Planning your next move?" He stood up, and I noticed he was unsteady on his feet. "I've lost everything. My job, my marriage, my reputation. Are you satisfied?" "I'm satisfied that actions have consequences. You and Mira thought you could have your affair and keep your lives intact. You were wrong. She won't even talk to me," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "After everything we meant to each other, she won't return my calls." I felt a moment of genuine pity for him. Not sympathy, he'd made his choices, but pity for someone who'd destroyed his life for something that had turned out to be an illusion. "Marcus, let me give you some free advice. Mira didn't leave me for you. She left me for the excitement of having a secret. Now that it's not secret anymore, now that it comes with real consequences, she's not interested. You were never the prize. You were just the escape." He stared at me, processing this. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? When's the last time she answered your calls? When's the last time she told you she loved you? I'm betting it was before Helena found those text messages." The look on his face told me I was right. "Find a job, Marcus. Fix your marriage if you can. Move on with your life. But stop calling my wife and stop trying to salvage something that was never real in the first place." I left him sitting on the bench and drove home, feeling oddly cleansed by the encounter. That evening, Vera called with an update. "Mira showed up at my house today," she said, without preamble. "What did she want?" "She wanted me to convince you to take her back. She's completely falling apart, Cole. No job, no money, Marcus won't talk to her, and she's staying in her sister's guest room indefinitely." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that she made her bed, and now she has to sleep in it. But Cole, I've never seen anyone look so desperate. She's lost weight, she looks like she hasn't slept in days, and she kept talking about how everything had spiraled out of control." I felt that flicker of sympathy again, but it passed more quickly this time. She had 8 months to control the situation. She could have ended the affair. She could have confessed and asked for forgiveness. She could have asked for a divorce honestly. Instead, she chose to keep lying until she got caught. "I know. I wanted you to know what you're dealing with. Desperate people do unpredictable things." After I hung up, I double-checked the locks on all the doors and made sure the security system was armed. Vera was right. Desperate people were unpredictable. But I'd been unpredictable too, and I'd had the advantage of preparation and evidence. Whatever Mira was planning, I'd be ready for it. My phone buzzed with a text from Helena. "Marcus showed up at my office today. Security had to escort him out. How are you holding up?" I typed back, "Fine. He's falling apart. I saw him this afternoon. He looks terrible." "Good. He should look terrible. He destroyed 2 families for an affair that lasted 8 months. How are your kids handling everything?" Better than expected. They're teenagers, so they're mostly concerned with how this affects them. But they're not surprised. Apparently, Marcus's behavior had been obvious for a while. I thought about that. How many people had known or suspected what was happening? How many friends, family members, and co-workers had watched Mira and Marcus together and drawn their own conclusions? How long had I been the only one who didn't know? It didn't matter now. The truth was out, the consequences were unfolding, and I was finally free from the exhausting work of pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new conversations with lawyers, new reminders of how completely my life had changed. But tonight, I was content to sit in my quiet house, planning a future that belonged entirely to me. For the first time in years, that future looked bright.